Hello, everyone, and welcome to the EMEA launch of the Kindness Games wonderful book. I know that many of you have read it, many of you are receiving it, many of you are gifting it over this Christmas period, and I'm sure there'll be ample opportunity to explore that. We've got some fantastic people in the audience. Christina says hello from Athens, Antonio, hello from Mexico, Jaimo, hello from Dubai, and James is looking forward to hearing more. Yeah, keep those comments coming. We're operating under a policy very much of you write it, we read it. You are very welcome, or at least we'd like for you to feel very welcome today for our fantastic book launch. I've been, of course, a great fan of the Kindness Games since its inception, and we've been doing some fantastic initiatives, including the human side, which many of you will have seen. Hi, Paul. Hi, Isabel. So I'm bringing up our fantastic founders to the stage, Tim and Lee. Let me get a bit of applause from them, from the audience. How are you doing, Lee?
Good morning, brother. How are you?
I'm excited. I'm pumped. What about
That's
you,
how
Tim?
we.
I am good. It's early in the morning. I'm drinking. We're gonna get this going. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Well, we have a few time zones, but by and large, it's on our terms because you had your North American book launch before, so it's only fair, isn't it? It's only fair that we bring you up. What are we going to be talking about today? What are we going to be expecting from our panels?
Well, you know what? We have some amazing people joining us. We're gonna have a few people reading from the book. We have Yulia from Dubai. We have Kunle from Africa. We also have several other people from Africa. We have some people from Switzerland. It's going to be a really great time today to discuss with people why they contributed to the book and other people why they've jumped into the kindness games and helped us out.
Love it, love it. And we're going to kick off almost like a baton handing over from North America to EMEA. We're going to be having Rob McKenna up soon. I think I saw Rob in the audience, and now I can't see him. But how was that launch? What were you discussing there? We're handing the baton around, and hopefully we'll go around the world.
Yeah, we wanted to do something a little bit different this time. On that first book launch, it was more reading from the book, introducing the chapters, introducing each individual contributor, what the Kindness Games journey was all about. But this one, we want a more interactive and engaging conversation. That's why we brought our great friend, Dr. Rob, and all of our other friends from EMEA, and they're just absolutely amazing speakers. Myself and Tim have become huge friends of everybody that we've invited today. And we're just excited to keep spreading kindness and showcase this fabulous book that we put together and all the other amazing contributors. Oh, look who's joined us.
Fantastic.
I'm
Well,
here.
welcome, Dr. Rob McKenna. Handing the baton over from North America to EMEA. What were you talking about at your launch?
You asking me, Phil?
Yeah, I think that's for you, Rob.
It was just an awesome moment. That first launch was just incredible. So just I think the chance to see and hear from different people and hear their not just their what I loved about it was the stories of kindness, but also that they were very whole stories. So they were stories of gratitude, of inspiration in the midst of very real challenges. And that's what I love about everyone that I heard from.
And that first launch was quite emotional. Like
Yeah, it was.
everybody that was there in the audience, Lee, several of the contributors, they were like, "Man, I was crying."
Yeah,
It was powerful.
it was.
Everybody grabbed
Lot-
their tissues. Let's
yeah, a
go.
lot of tears, a lot of emotions, a lot of
Yeah.
broken and cracked voices. But it was powerful, right? I think that was a magic moment. And yeah, it's amazing to have Rob here again because he's part of our
Yeah.
family. And he's been a huge part of helping me and you, Tim, right?
Absolutely. Hey, Rob, can I kick us off by reading a little
Please.
part from the book and then we can discuss it?
Please.
All right. Rob McKenna had a conversation with me shortly after TKG started to catch on. He warned that this was quite countercultural. It threatened establishments and people of influence. It threatened to unseat a source of intimidation-based power. But Rob wasn't warning me off. He was smiling. He was making sure I was intentionally choosing this struggle. He was welcoming a brother to the fight. This journey for us is worth the struggle. Many TKGers have come to Lee and me with their dilemmas. We tell them all the same thing. This is your choice. This is your life. We would never tell you what to do. We will never look down on you for the path you choose. Our choices have consequences. But consider this. Do you want to work, lead, and live in this environment? It's a sad testament to the state of the world we live in. Helping and uplifting others creates discontent. It's the dangerous societal shift to a faceless, humanless society where we all should find a box that makes us happy and stay in it. It's clear that we should not be influencing across communities because it's a disruption to the power dynamics which began in earnest with the COVID-19 pandemic. Stay in your box with your people and your ideas and be happy. This is what we're being told. In what world would you like to work, lead, and live? In what world will you raise the next generation? What world will you leave behind? It's your choice and ultimately your struggle. Rob, this was early days. This was probably November of 2020, right? So 2 months in, and things were just starting to pick up. This was right after a wild conversation on a Friday. You had mentioned the kindness games, which kind of shocked me. And then we had this conversation. What started that conversation?
It's funny, Tim, when I hear you read that, because first of all, you know how you're old enough at some point where you forget things you said, and where it sounds like you're like, that sounds like something I would say. And what I do remember about it, and just in describing that to you, is I don't know why, but this is the way I describe it, because I feel like a lot of my own life is a going to battle process. Like but you're battling for different things. And so I think when I first met you, Tim, I felt like I had another battle partner. Because I think it's oftentimes it is a fight. And that's what I found, I think, so inspirational from the beginning, is like from the time that we first met, and Lee, then seeing that in you as well, is there are people talking about sort of almost an oversimplified approach to what kindness would look like, what joy would look like, what hope would look like. And I never ever sensed that from either of you, that it was based in something real, that we're aspiring to something together that is a possibility. It's funny, the word aspiration for me is not something that's empty. It's like we have to aspire to something different than what we have. And so that's what I feel like we resonated. We became siblings in this fight together, because we can't go to battle for this alone, because I think it takes tremendous courage. In different parts of the world, in different cultures, we see that it's where it's quite literally not acceptable to be kind. We see, I don't mean just national cultures. I mean corporate cultures too. And I've heard Lee talk about that. And so that's what kind of inspired me in that first conversation. And so I'm like, these are going to be deep friends of mine for the rest of my life. And it just so happens that it started at a time where something crazy like that period in history brought us together. So.
Absolutely. Lee and I, we advocate that you can be kind all the time in every aspect of your life. But I know you've done a lot of work in India and other places, to where being kind is not always acceptable if you're in a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
And Lee and I have worked, throughout the Middle East and traveled all over the world. And there's some places to where they look down on leading with kindness.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? And how do we get past that? How do we lead through that?
I think it's an interesting thing. There's two things that I was thinking about even yesterday. One is that the story that you've heard me talk about, Tim, is that I was with as you said, I spent a lot of time in India, and to even speak of India is ridiculous because it like as one place, because it's the most diverse place I've ever imagined, that I will continue to learn about for the rest of my life. But a leader came up to me and said, and he had started to develop some courage to actually begin to speak up in his organization in different kinds of ways. And he actually was he said, I was being kind to one of the people that reports to me, and my manager came up to me and said, "Why are you being kind?" And it was apparent that it was very threatening to not only the manager but kind of to the whole system within that certain corporate culture, where kindness was actually a way of showing almost a vulnerability that was unacceptable. As if you weren't as valuable because you were being kind, because you weren't fronting with something different than that was. And so it gave me this, like, I see that in companies where I live as well. But that was one piece of it. And the other piece, I realized that it takes tremendous courage, because I had someone talk to me yesterday about until they got involved with us in our whole community, that we're all a part of. This person yesterday told me this, Tim. He said, I had been disqualifying myself all my life, and from the possibility that I actually was relevant in the conversation with the kinds of people who are listening right now. You know what I mean? Like, some of us think like, well, that's ridiculous that someone would disqualify themselves, but that disqualification actually produced an unkindness, like a different way of showing up in the world. And so I just that's the thing. I just feel like it takes tremendous courage. And this is what I was saying to you, Tim, is I wasn't trying to say like, hey, I'm warning you off because I have so much wisdom about this, but I did want to say, like, I think this is dangerous work. But we have to do it. We have to do it. It's there's so many people finding hope through this book, through this community. It's really unbelievable to see. Unbelievable to see.
Lee, what do you got, man?
I love to listen to Rob. If I'm honest, I get lost every time he speaks, and I really enjoy the series that both of you guys have done, and that allows me to take a back seat. As you know, I spend 24/7, trying to spread kindness and positivity, and that takes a lot of energy. So when I get the opportunity to listen to the both of you just freestyling, I get such enjoyment out of doing acute listening. Rob, he's taught both of us, the what ifs in life. And that's probably the most powerful part of the kindness journey. And let me just read, these three things off the back of the book. What if we ferociously pursued shout outs of kindness instead of shouting to be right? Think about that. In life, most of the things that we've chosen to do, we want to be right. I mean, why do we want to do that? Why shouldn't we stand in a position where we're affording others a platform so that we can listen to their emotions? A lot of people are suffering in silence and challenged in the dark and don't want to come out into the light. So I want them to flow and just really show the beauty of each other.
It's so interesting, Lee,
Yeah.
because in this day and age, we have so many modes of communication, so many platforms that we can jump onto and grab an audience. And yet nowadays, people are feeling the least heard, seen, and known than ever before.
Exactly, brother. Think about this one too. What if we chase down the people we know are hurting so we can lift them up in a world for how beautiful and amazing that they are? If we think what we've created with the kindness games, we've given those people in pain that platform. we've just allowed them to kind of share with us their trials and tribulations. And every single one of us has a story, and every single one of us has been damaged to some extent. And I think what we love to do with TKG is give people that platform. We've become the vessel where they can speak freely, not be judged. You know, who the hell are we to judge anybody? The only person that should be able to judge someone is themselves, right? You are the master of your own destiny. You're the captain of your ship. You're the one setting the course. And that's what we should always do is try and put others before us. And let me just give you this last one. What if we gave a damn about each other and pledged to show it? Well, that's what we're doing today. That's why we've all come together. That's why we've put another book launch on for all of you amazing human beings that have chosen to be here today. Not everybody is interested in kindness. So that baffles me a little bit, but hey, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, we like to have our doubters. We also like to have our haters, because that enables us to have a stronger and richer conversation to understand what are those flashpoints? Why were you triggered? So for those of you out there that haven't quite cottoned on to why kindness is so important in their life, we're here to talk to you. We actually want to reach you. And we're grateful for every single one of you. And thank you for everybody turning up today. That's what I've got.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this is a great way to set it off, and I'm really pleased the baton has been passed to Europe, Middle East, and Africa. We've got Dr. Rob McKenna in the house to help us with that journey. Lots of lovely chat already from Richie and John and many others, so keep that coming. Let's give you a wonderful round of applause, and we will commence our first EMEA panel. I'll put you back in the audience, and I will save Tim.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
Feels so good to be saved. Thank you.
Nice comment. Stephanie says you are captivating, guys. Well, Tim, fantastic to be in Europe and Middle East and Africa simultaneously.
Right.
What a great start. Let's bring up our first panelists, and we're going to talk kindness. We're going to talk the kindness games and the book. Let me bring everyone up, and I will then give them a chance to be introduced by you. But as always, I will be here in the background.
Well, this is going to be a fun conversation. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Fantastic. Okay, we're all here. We're all here. Kunle, I've also, I think I put you. No, I put Kunle up. Let me just. And Katia, you're on our next one. I do apologize.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Are you on holiday? She's making me want to go on holiday now.
We got so many new attendees. Everything's moving around in the attendees. Right, Tim, you have the floor.
Go. All right, everybody. Jennifer and
Hi.
Lee and I met last year in Zurich. She lives in Switzerland, and we were at a conference together, and we immediately gravitated like magnets. Jennifer, do you want to do a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm from Southern California, and I'm based in Zurich, Switzerland for the last almost 20 years now. I'm a risk professional and digital transformation specialist, and I founded a company called Says Life, where we specialize in people and well-being risk management for companies.
Awesome. And Yulia is hailing from Dubai, and we haven't actually met in person, but we've interacted a lot on social media. Yulia, how did you come into contact with the kindness games?
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to really chat much, team. Most of my communication was with Lee, and we connected with Lee a year ago. when I was organizing the celebration of the International World Kindness Day at Zayed University here in Dubai. So just to give a little bit of background of who I am, I'm a professional development coach. I'm Korean Ukrainian. I was raised in Ukraine and moved to Dubai 19 years ago. And I'm a professional development coach, working with the students, as well as working with individuals and companies to develop leadership and emotional intelligence.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, good to finally have a conversation with you, not over text.
Likewise, and thank you so much for supporting all of my, LinkedIn posts, especially when I was playing the kindness games. I was impressed by the support of the community from the kindness games. Like shocking and honestly pleasant.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we're going to meet in person one day. Maybe this year we're going to make it happen. And then we have the amazing Kunle Palemo, who I'm going to start with. Kunle, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Tim. My name is Kunle Palemo. I'm from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria specifically. I'm a personal development trainer and a mental health enthusiast. I've created conversations about mental health with people from different parts of the world, and I am sold out to doing that in Africa and in collaboration with organizations and individuals as well. So glad to be part of the Kindness Games community. It's been 3 years of bliss, having amazing people, and I mean, there is no limit to what we can achieve in this community that we are building. And big ups to Tim and Lee for birthing this.
Thank you. Kunle, you joined really, really early. And in fact, you have a chapter in the book. How did you come into contact with the Kindness Games? Where were you at? And why did you jump in?
Thank you so much, Lee. I mean, it was that unprecedented year in 2020 that I joined the Kindness Game. Just, I think, like maybe a month after the whole thing started. I was called by my late friend in the United States of America, Steve D'Onofrio, who brought that to my notice. And being the year it was then, it was very tough. That was the same year COVID-19 broke. And then the whole world was shut down in cold. And that was the same year I lost my mom earlier on, and it was a difficult time. So when he called me, and I saw that as an opportunity to have like a twist amidst all the things the world is going through, just because I am also a kindness enthusiast myself. Most of the things I do revolve around kindness, creating conversations that are courageous and difficult, and making people come to the open to speak up in one way or the other. So when I got the invitation by Steve, I had no other option than to jump in. And the fact that he speaks to us, giving shout out to people for what they do or for who they are, speaks to what I call the tripod of kindness. And this is number one, it's the fact that we need to be kind to ourselves, then we need to be kind to others, and we need to be kind always. And that was what I found so relevant in the Kindness Games. And look at it today, it's spreading like a wildfire, creating an explosion all around the world, and people are jumping in every day. We can see the tangible expression on LinkedIn with posts coming up every day, and we are celebrating that. So when I got the call to jump in, I did, and I have no regret ever since. Tim.
Amazing. And let me ask you a question. There's probably a lot of people who were inspired. I know there's several people in Africa that started joining the Kindness Games after you. But did you receive any poor feedback, any pushback?
Well, I think when I joined, I definitely called some other people to jump in, and I got a couple of people who did that. But along the line, I mean, they stopped, and it was obvious. I mean, it was due to some obvious reasons. We have our own challenges in terms of, hustles and bustles here and there. And that's also what kindness is all about. I mean, when we also put ourselves in that space to receive kindness, and that is also important. And then we are also gentle on ourselves. I mean, one of the things that I did, my 30 post wasn't, I mean, back to back. I was gentle on myself enough to create space before I finally made it, and I became, one of the alumni of the TKG. So, I mean, after that, I saw it that, yeah, a time will come whereby we will still be able to create our conversations with those people who dropped off, who can still do that particular, post that will continue, up to the 30 posts that makes them like an alumnus of the TKG. So basically, that had been how the story had been, but I saw it as something that I do freely. And over a period of time, most of the things that I do had been motivated by, what the kindness game is all about. Just going to spread kindness without even expecting anything in return, because that is what it's all about. The fact that you are able to give it out and you get a feel-good effect out of that, and the fact that it connects with people and they can also go ahead and spread it all around, that's what is much more important to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Jennifer and Yulia, whoever wants to take the lead on this, I want to have this conversation with you.
Mhm.
Why is it, whether we're in our personal life, in our corporate life, why do we run into resistance when we're trying to be kind or lead with kindness? Have you guys run into that?
Oh yeah, I have many times.
Tell us about
Can
it.
you hear me? Well, Yulia, do you mind if I jump in and then?
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
of course. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
So I wrote down a quote actually for today, and this is a perfect segue, Tim. So thank you. But so many times, people, I'm sure you all have heard this before, but don't mistake my kindness for being weak. Or don't mistake my happiness for being weak. And I find that ringing through in different cultures. And when I started looking at executive level stress in more detail, and what I call fabricated stress in the workplace for leaderships, we create a lot of this stress ourselves, and we create a lot of this fabricated unkindness due to a lot of the structural capacities we place in a corporate organization at the top levels. We almost pit each other against pit each other, leaders one by one against each other. Whereas if you look at like a professional sports team, you would never pay an astronomical amount for every professional and then pit them against each other. And we do that in a corporate environment. We actually do not encourage kindness amongst each other. We structure our pay scales, we structure our promotions to create people being afraid and fearful for being either fired or being taken over by one of their teammates, or not being there. Can everybody hear me? I think it's cutting out.
Oh, we can hear you. You're
Okay,
rocking
great.
it. Keep going.
So from my perspective, to answer question, Tim, I feel that in the corporate environment, we fictitiously create an environment through processes and regulations to have, from the top level down, from leadership downwards, an environment of unkind behavior because everyone's pitted against each other.
I hear you, and I agree with you. And I think that there's a lot of insecurity in the world. And in my experience, the higher you climb, the more elite your title is, or your job is, or your company is, the more we're afraid to lose it. And
Right.
we are afraid, so we decide that we're going to rule by fear. Yulia, have you ever seen anything like that? Or do you completely disagree? I would love that.
I agree with you totally, and I did my study about kindness, like my research about kindness through different sciences, through neuroscience, through psychology, and indeed I found out that kindness is not so popular. It has a lack of PR, let's say, or marketing. But from my conversation with a psychologist, we identified that the reason is why is that kindness is perceived as vulnerability. And vulnerability is something that triggers that in our brains that we will not be able to survive. So we have to protect ourselves to survive. That's why like aggressive emotions are more powerful and more stimulating rather than the kindness. And kindness versus other emotions, it's running on different hormones. And what I would say, like, it refers to, you did mention, team, about or Lee mentioned earlier, like about the leader and the manager. Rob, I'm sorry, earlier he did mention he had a conversation where he was leading and then the manager came in commenting why you were kind. So that's the difference when you are managing and when you are leading. And that is where we need to raise more awareness about the leadership styles and defining who is the leader, what the leadership means to everyone. And that is, I see there is a positive shift. We haven't 100% shifted to that mindset, the leading by growing others and inspiring and motivating teams. So I'm seeing that, yes, we still have like old-fashioned managing style, protective, more aggressive style rather than inspiring and motivating style. However, like there is an amazing Brené Brown, if you read her book about Dare to Lead. So she actually talks and educates leaders around the globe to accept being vulnerable and to showcase the vulnerability, because it creates a safe space for others and it creates a trust within teams and people around.
Great points. Great points. I love that. Maybe I should just like stop the panel right now. Just leave it there. No, no. We have more time. All right. So I think I love where this conversation is going. I think we have confusion over words these days and how they apply to leadership. So I think people confuse kindness and nice. And they're two different things. And actually, I think they have nothing to do with one another. Being nice is a dedication to a specific social situation to make it a good, pleasing, and elegant experience for everyone, no matter the cost to you. Whereas kindness is seeing the human on the other side of every life situation and saying, how can I give them the best outcome? Even when that means sometimes I have to give them feedback that they don't want to hear because I care about them so much that I want to help them develop. The other thing that I hear is, well, you can't be kind because you can't be friends with your employees because you have to tell them what to do and you may have to fire them one day or discipline them. And if you're friends with them, you won't be able to do that. What do we think? And I'll throw this out to the entire group. Whoever wants to take it, feel free. But what do we think about this confusion?
Well, I think you can be, just as you said, there's confusion around the words that we use. So, and you've used nice versus kindness as an example. And I would say being a friend with someone is much different than being kind to someone. So you don't need to be somebody's friend to be kind to them. Like you said, it's having that human understanding, that person on the other side of the table, that person alongside of you, and having some empathy towards them, or just trying to understand their perspective, right? Without coming out of the gate strong and being aggressive or being hard or harsh. So for me, there's a big difference between friends with someone. I don't think you need to be friends with your employees, but being kind to them is very important.
I mean,
Go ahead, Finley.
that was yeah, thank you so much. That was so apt from you, Jennifer. That's the deal. Kindness talks more about giving a platform whereby people are free to be themselves. And then, I mean, most especially in the workplace, where there is that openness, where there is that free space, and where people don't have the fear of being judged by expressing themselves in one way or the other. But what is obtainable in the workspace most time had been the narrative that had been pushed over a period of time, just like you paint a team, whereby people felt when you are holding a particular position, you have to behave this way. And people sometimes are trained to become that way because that's how they feel people should look like. That if you are holding this position, you don't have to smile, you don't have to show your vulnerability. And you have a lot of people go through a lot of things and they are dying in silence, even by being, by occupying a particular position. So in one way or the other, they deprive themselves of being kind to themselves. And they also get that deprivation of showing kindness to other people. And there is no doubt about it that, I mean, what kindness offers is beyond the physical. There are also the biological importance of kindness whenever we show it. These are the narratives we need to stop, that we need to create conversations around, just as we are doing right in here today, because kindness has been so far seen, in quote now, as a weak, as a weak act or a weak attitude. But right. I mean, the reverse is the case. It is not weak to be kind.
Right.
I love that. And you know what? In the opening, we spoke about Rob talking to me about it unseating certain powers and positions of authority because of that insecurity and that fear. Yulia, when you spoke earlier, you talked about that vulnerability and how important it was in creating relationships, right? I think as leaders or even managers, and maybe people don't see themselves as this, not only are we supposed to lead a team to get results for the business, right? And I think that's what a lot of people default to is like, this is my job to make the numbers go up and make these people do the work. But don't the outcomes become exponentially better when we find ways to inspire our teams and the people that work around us? And vulnerability, in my experience, has been the catalyst for true inspiration that brings a team together and says, you know what, we're going to take this on and we're going to knock it out of the park. So, Yulia, what do you think? How does vulnerability inspire?
I had a good conversation with some of my students, and we were talking about vulnerability. In the Middle East, especially, there is a big thing about being vulnerable because everyone is grown in order to show up as strong. So there is no space for being vulnerable and weak and emotional. However, at the same time, when people so empathetic and sympathetic here. So the great conversation what the students share, when they see someone is vulnerable, I feel that I can relax and be myself and feel safe and also being vulnerable. So it takes the tension out, and then I just can be me. That's amazing.
Absolutely. I'll share a really quick story. So in 2000, I graduated high school in the middle of the cornfield, in the middle of nowhere. And in 2005, I bought my first computer because I needed to find a job outside of the cornfield. And in 2010, I got my first smartphone and sent my first text because I was interviewing for a job that said, like, you need to be tech savvy. And I was like, oh, I'm not that at all. And then in 2013, I took over executive protection technology at Facebook. And I was like, oh my God, I'm totally getting fired because I had no idea how any of this worked. And what I finally did was I asked, who are the smartest people in this space that can help with this project? And I brought them into a room and I said, look, here's the thing. Here's the problems. Here is the ideal outcome, success. And I have no idea how to bridge that gap. I don't know how this works. I don't know how we get from point A to point B, but we need to do it. And that's why I've invited you all here, because I've been told that you are the smartest people in the company in this space. And that project and my career there was an overwhelming success because, one, I was vulnerable. I inspired trust, and I didn't try to tell them how to do their job. I let really good people create and perform. And I asked the questions. I managed the project. So how else might we be curious and vulnerable and achieve great results?
Was that a question to us, Tim?
Yep.
That was a great story. I was still listening. Let's see. How can we repeat the question? So how can we be more vulnerable and drive results?
Yeah, through curiosity.
Through curiosity. That's a really good question. I think it would have to be kind of individually sought out, because if you're going to be authentic and show some vulnerability as a leader, it needs to come from within. So everyone's vulnerability will be different. So, and it might be different based on which scenario that you're in. You might need to fluctuate depending upon what the scenario is, what the situation demands, and the people involved. We mentioned culture a little earlier, that some cultures are really brought up to believe that being kind is not the way to show yourself as a capable human being, really. So if we want to be capable in a position and in a job, then being kind and showing authenticity and showing your curiosity about others and showing that you don't have all the answers sometimes doesn't work in a situation. I mean, so I was born and raised in Southern California. I did my university in the Midwest, and then I went back from California into Europe. And there was a huge culture change on a professional level and personal level around not knowing the answer. And so if you don't know the answer in some cultures, if you don't know exactly how to do it, then you may not be thought of as being a capable person, and then not being a capable leader, right? So I feel that depending upon the culture and the place and the time and the people that you're with, you really have to read the room. And as we mentioned earlier, kindness means understanding the person next to you. And so understanding those people and being curious about them, I think, is really the core. So then you'll be able to, as a leader, exemplify the right type of authenticity and the right type of vulnerability in that particular case to achieve the goals that you're set out to achieve.
Awesome. Kunle, what do you got?
I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I like it.
Yeah, Kunle.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Jennifer. And I just want to pick it up from where you stopped. It is the fact that we need to really understand the interpersonal differences that exist within, our coexistence. That is what will help us. I mean, we want to box everybody, most especially in, maybe in institutions, in the workplace. We give everybody similar targets, and we give them like same ways of achieving that target, and we have forgotten the differences that exist in those people. And that is where empathy comes in. When you allow people, and another thing there is that kindness is not about me solving all your problem all the time, but giving you the platform to thrive It's as simple as that. And that's me understanding the fact that even though I may not be able to solve this problem immediately, but I empathize with you. I give you that, that space to show your vulnerability, that space to open up to be you. It's as simple as that. And by the time we begin to make people, understand this fact, the better it's going to be for, workplaces and different institutions that we find ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yulia, how can we elevate others around us? Maybe even if we're working with someone and we see that they're having a difficult time, maybe they're having performance issues, or maybe they're having personal life issues that are affecting work. How can we be a leader and still elevate those around us?
That's such an important question, Tim, and thanks for raising it. I'd like to build on what Jennifer said and Kunle said previously about authenticity and about being understanding and about empathy. So it all includes about the emotional intelligence. So first, it starts with you. So as a leader, to work on to increase your emotional intelligence, and which helps you to understand the emotional information of yourself and other people in order to be more effective as a leader. And then it's all about the balance. And when we speak about the kindness, to identify it's not people pleasing, and as you see said, Tim, it's not being nice. As Jennifer said, it's being understanding, and maybe it requires some empathy to understand, first as a leader, and secondly, I shared just in the chat an amazing book, and there is a workbook from Marley Adams. It is Change Your Questions Change Your Life, because we always try as a leader, we have a judger mindset she talks about, and the learner mindset. And the learner, it's about the curiosity. What's exciting? What am I not seeing about it? So instead of asking yourself questions, are they going to judge me? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with me? So notice and shift to another mindset about being curious, as you, Tim, said earlier.
Thank you.
There's also, Tim, I wanted to mention just a piece in your book. You guys talk about the self-care and the kindness and self-care. So going back around being authentic. So if you're trying to be authentic, but you're not kind to yourself, it's going to be really hard to be authentic and be curious about someone else when you yourself are not actually treating yourself with kindness, and taking care of yourself. And being kind to yourself shouldn't be confused with being selfish, which is something different. But when Yulia talks about the emotional intelligence and so forth, it's challenging, I think, in today's society, given all the stuff that's going on and all the things we see and read on the media. I mean, it's very difficult to see anything in the news these days that allows us to wake up in the morning and start the day fresh and feel good about ourselves when we walk out the door, and so it's very challenging. I wish, I personally wish the media would start showing us something that would allow us to, spark, and encourage kindness in ourselves and others when we start the day, instead of doom and gloom and everything's horrible. And so when you talk about self-care, I think it's really important and it can't be ignored. I think it's a really important chapter in your book, because if you want to run a program such as the Kindness Games in a corporate organization, the leadership has to start with it, and the leadership needs to start being kind to themselves. And actually, as I mentioned before, corporate structures sometimes pit each other against, again, we are pitted against each other. So if you're actually being kind to yourself as a leader, you probably shouldn't stand for those things and say, we need to make a change to this so we can start working as a team together instead of competing with one another.
And that's an important thing to note. The leader's role, fostering healthy competition, because there is healthy competition.
There's healthy
within a team, right? Because we can make each other better. We can gamify things. We can make work more fun.
Yeah.
But there is a point in time when that becomes toxic. It becomes stressful.
Yeah.
It becomes seen as a zero-sum game.
Right.
And as a leader, we need to be able to make sure that everybody is playing with the right set of rules and uplifting the entire team. As we close out this panel, in the book, we talk about the leading with kindness values. So our leadership philosophy, and a couple of them are: one, curiosity leads to self-control. So when I'm anxious, when I'm having trouble understanding where to go, sometimes asking questions, as Julia was saying, to help me find direction, to help understand what the environment is, what other people are thinking, is a settling effect and brings everyone together and makes things clearer. The other thing is when I receive unexpected feedback, or we have a blow up on the team, or something goes wrong and the bosses are upset, and I have that stress because I have to deal with that. Being curious, asking questions, finding out how everything went, and actually getting to the facts rather than writing the emotions is a big deal. So those are some things that we can think about going forward. And thank you all for having this conversation with me, unrehearsed. A lot of people are afraid to do that, but I love it.
Thanks, everybody. It was great to be here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. And it was a pleasure to connect with Jennifer and Kunli. I hope we can reconnect further on LinkedIn and stay in touch.
Absolutely. Would love to.
Thank you, thank you, Julia, and thank you, Julia. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Tim. Real appreciate.
Good to see you all.
Well, let's give our panel a beautiful round of applause, and I'll put them back in the audience. Thank you, Jennifer, Kunle, Tim, and Julia.
Awesome.
And thank you to you, all fantastic audience members, for some great comments and questions. It's in fact far too much for me to read, but I'll just say, thank you, Katia, Paul, Adiola, Brian, Richie, Dr. Rob, John, Vasti, Solvega, Adiola again, Alex, Jubilee. If I've missed anyone out, thanks very much. But keep those comments coming, because that makes it alive. Lots of fantastic debate. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Molara. Let's Isabel. Yeah, let's keep it all coming. Now, you will notice that I've done a little impromptu survey in the chat, a little poll. That TKG 30-day challenge. You'll see many people have done it over 30 days. Some people are doing the Jingle Bell challenge right now, and yeah, the 30 post challenge 6 times. I know I should have put more options, Tim. I should have put more options. However, in there, I'm interested to know how many times have you done it. So far, we've got 16 replies. It's still live for 1 minute 57 seconds. So far, we've got 35% only once, 12% twice, but 53%, and that's you, will be doing it now. And of course, the OG of everything, Lee, has done it 7. Gigi says, great panel, inspired conversation. Congratulations. Now, moving on, let's bring up our next panel moderator. You know him from such initiatives as TKG. We're going to bring Lee back to the floor, and then I'll bring up our next fantastic panelist. But yeah, keep those comments coming. We're reading them. Please select everyone, otherwise it just comes to me. That could, of course, be your intention, which in that case is fine. But let me bring everyone up. Lee, how's it been for you?
Fabulous. And did you just call me the OG?
Well, you're
Brilliant.
you're the official TKG along with Tim. So
fantastic. Some beautiful conversations so far and some amazing comments in the chat. So thanks to everybody.
Fantastic. And I've invited our next panelist up, and yeah, we've got just a few minutes left on that fantastic poll. So keep it coming. But yeah, Tim, you are you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Pelham. It's absolutely fantastic to be here today, and it's even better to be welcoming these amazing friends who you're about to hear from. I've had the blessing of having some really rich and thoughtful conversations with every single one of them. I call them all friends. They're all fellow kindness crusaders. They're all doing amazing and wonderful things in their own right. And what I want to do is very similar to what Tim has just done. We're going to have a very interactive and engaging conversation around kindness. So I'm going to start off there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow each of our speakers to introduce themselves. So Katya, I'd like to give you the floor first because you have the warmest smile. And so please, tell the audience who you are and what you're here for today.
So not true. I'm just looking at Victoria's smile too. It's just as warm, if not more so. But anyway, thank you for having me. And I've been in the workplace for a long time, and I started my own business about 8 years ago. And my mission was to be a part of bringing kindness, respect, and humanity back into the workplace. So I advise companies, I advise boards and C-suites, and one of the ways to get them to open up is indeed kindness, because as we've heard in the great discussion beforehand, kindness is good for everyone, in particular for leaders, because they do have it hard very often. And maybe to bring a little bit more lightness, while I can see how kindness may require courage, it's actually so much easier once we get started. And I really like the lightness of kindness that it brings us and that we bring to the world. With that, I hand back to you, Lee.
Beautiful words. And it's just magic to have you here. And I love your enchanting smile. And that brings me on to another huge smiler and a lovely lady. Victoria, come on down and introduce yourself.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is displayed on the screen, Victoria Obuehi. I'm speaking to all of you from Nigeria. I'm the Senior Risk and Resilience Manager for Nigerian Bottling Company, which is also referred to as the Coca-Cola HBC in Nigeria, okay? I'm still wondering why Lee invited me to this call as a speaker. He did that, I think, 48 hours ago. So I'm just wondering, and I'm here, but I'm happy to be here. And I hope the conversation is going to be as interactive and as insightful as possible. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful words, Victoria. Wow, I'm sure the audience will see and understand why you are here as we delve deeper into this amazing conversation. So welcome to you. And that brings me on to our last speaker for today, and my good friend, Gentleman George. Come on down, George. You're on mute, my friend.
Okay, yeah, you're getting me now loud and clear. Thank you very much. This is exceptional. I think as we go, we roll on, Victoria will understand why she's here. We go back almost 2 or 3 years with some funny story of Mexico and Africa. My name is George Mandere Mochengo, as is displayed on the screen. In my local language, Omochengo means rejoice or show some joy or delight. I'm really delighted to share the same platform with Lee, with Victoria, and with the team Wenzel and all other exceptional and people who show kindness in this talk today. I'm from Kenya in East Africa. I'm based in Nairobi. I work for a company called Kenwood Security Services as the operation manager. We specialize in security services, and mostly we do guarding, technology, and consultancy. I've been in the security industry for the past 20 years, mostly in operations. And those who've been in operations will understand that basically we have 2 types of customers, the internal customers and the external customers. And the way we deal with these customers really sometimes really differs. But over the years, anybody in operations will understand that kindness of any person in operations has to be tested to the limit. Because apart from these internal and external customers, also we have other stakeholders. For example, some not so good looking people or men, for example, the criminals and those guys who want to penetrate in your assignments. How do you deal with them? Do you become kind to them, or do you become, rough and hard on them? So I think in this discussion, we'll look into that as we progress. Thank you very much, Lee, for inviting me.
No, thank you, George. And Magic, that actually allows me to lean into the first question that I have for all of you. And I'm going to allow Katia to start first. And this is what I want to say to you, Katia, because the kindness that you showed myself and Tim when we were in Zurich, and imagine this is a woman we'd never met in person, and this was again some of our first conversations, and you were so warm and generous to me and Tim by networking and circulating us through a crowd in Zurich that myself and Tim had never met before as well. So thank you for that. And then that takes me on to my question. So Katia, for me and for the audience, what does kindness really mean to you?
I already answered that question actually in the chat. And for me, to put it simple, means caring for other people, for the other person I'm dealing with. But it's not quite so easy, obviously. And kindness for me was a journey. It started off with just being nice, It started off with smiling at people, with being open to people. But then, and that brings me back a little bit to both Rob's and Tim's discussion early on, it became something deeper. And it became something which I felt and which became part of how I wanted to be. And then I could explore the true kindness, because caring sounds so easy, but sometimes it's not, particularly when you at first glance don't like the other person. And I'm using it as a training ground too. When I find somebody who at a first glance I don't like, I'll ask myself to go back to the curious part. Why don't I like them? And then I dig in deeper, and then I may not like them straight away, but I become curious. So kindness is truly something as deep as you make it. It can be very easy and light, and it can be a profound part of you, and then it becomes really difficult.
Wow. Yeah, that's just so powerful. Being kind even when you don't want to be kind, as Tim just put in the chat group as well. And that's that's a real superpower right there. Victoria, what about you? What does kindness mean to you?
Kindness. Can you hear me? Please confirm you can hear me.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, kindness. Kindness is complex, okay? So I listened to Katia talk about caring as a component of kindness. And so when you bring caring on board, or you want to add it to one of the elements of kindness, or one of the indices that can be used to measure kindness, some people might find it extremely burdensome and quite sacrificial. Because for you to care for someone, you have to go out of your way to do certain things, okay? It's good, it's fine. It's also part of kindness. The point is that kindness has lots of different dimensions, okay? But I want to talk about kindness in the most simplified form. So that people don't leave this call today feeling that you have to go to school to get a degree to be kind. Kindness is something that should come naturally. It's something that should flow naturally. It's not something you should be hypocritical about. It's something that, in fact, kindness is an obligation, it's a duty. Okay? It's a duty. And the basis for that is the fact that I don't know how many of you believe in God or read the Bible, okay? But from the Christian perspective, from Christian point of view, when Paul was writing to the people of Ephesians, he told them, be kind to one another. It was an injunction that was supposed to be obligatory to them. And when he said to one another, he did not discriminate. He didn't say, when you see person of this race, please be kind to them. When you see persons of this religion, please try to be kind to them. When you see persons of this color, be kind to them. Just say, be kind to one another. And what that means is that we just have to be kind whenever we find ourselves in the midst of people. Okay, so coming back to trying to simplify the term kindness, I can just talk about it from the point of being friendly. I'm not saying we should be friends, just as the previous speaker emphasized several times. Friendliness is not the same as being friends with anybody, but just naturally having a friendly disposition. Okay? Now, you are not also obligated to always have a friendly disposition. The kind of disposition you have per time depends on what you are also going through within your mind. Okay? So there are times you wake up from the wrong side of the bed and you don't even want to see nobody, you don't even want to talk about anybody. And somebody is talking about you, something, oh, Victoria is so really nice. And somebody else says, but I met her today. I was even saying hi to her and she didn't respond. So there are a whole lot of factors, but it's something that
I think we've lost Victoria. I think she's connecting back on. While she connects, just want to pick a few words that or statements that she said. Sacrificial kindness and a duty to be kind. Wow. I mean, those two statements in their own right, I mean, they really stood out to me, and they're kind of moving comments that really kind of allow you to dig deep into the kindness philosophy. As we're trying to connect back with Victoria, George, please can you jump in, my friend, and tell us what kindness means to you? George, you're on mute, my friend.
Maybe George, while we're waiting, if you don't mind me responding to something Victoria said.
Yeah, go ahead, Katja.
While I'm fully with Victoria that there can't be kindness should come naturally, we can still learn it and choose it and train for it, because our natural disposition is not always kind and we're often egotistical, but the more we try to be kind, the more we can actually, the easier it becomes. And I think George is back.
Yeah, George, come on down. Victoria, we'll come back again to you in a minute. George, what's kindness mean to you?
Yep. I was saying I'll give you the meaning of kindness from an African perspective. First of all, I'll break down the word kindness down to being kind. And from being kind, I'll break it further down to kin. In Africa, kin is the extended family. And this means that you belong to a family. And if you belong to a family, a particular family, then you are human. You show compassion and benevolence. You want this family to have the best. So you become generous, you become considerate, and you become friendly to this family. So to me, kindness is being human, is having human instinct that you want everybody to have the best. And in Africa, we have what we call the extended family, from the extended family. And this kindness moves across that. And as we are becoming a global village, then we have seen that kindness has become a universal language of love. And I'll give you an example of how I came to know about the kindness games. During the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, I think I had a chat with Team Wenzel, all the way from America. I'm in East Africa, many miles, many kilometers away. But we talked because I was during that time, businesses were not working. Employers had rendered several people redundant, and I was just in the house and just going through my LinkedIn, and there's this person talking about being kind, being considerate about other people, and through that, I think it really touched me and gave me hope that there's somebody who is compassionate or has some goodwill for you. So to me, kindness basically is being human. Not necessarily where you are, but with all the people, as Victoria talked about, not considering about race, nationalism, or where somebody comes from. Lee.
Absolutely fabulous, George. The kindness family, right? We are a community. I know that you and Victoria will get this, and those of us who love kindness and community philosophies. The fantastic Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the Ubuntu philosophy. Again, how that brings communities, and again was started out in Africa, and that really is, an amazing thing to think about whilst we're here today. So let's move this conversation on, and again, thank you so much to each and every one of you, and I'm really grateful for your comments. And I'm going to ask you this, because we've already talked about it in the first panel, and this is a topic that's come up a lot. How is kindness accepted within your workplace? Victoria, you start us off. Come on, let's hear what you've got to say.
Oh, okay. So I listened to the first panelists, the first session, and I was shocked when I heard about the fact that in some parts of the world that kindness is resisted. Okay, so I work in an environment where kindness is encouraged. Though we do not use the term kindness, we use terms like being considerate, okay? And that also means being kind. I have never really perceived kindness as weakness. If I don't want to talk about myself actually, but George was talking about the African context and what we consider kindness. And it's a kind of family thing, it's a kind of lineal thing where everybody just has to do what they can do, no matter how little. And before the network threw us out the first time, I was really talking about that kindness can be the simplest thing that we do, like saying hi to someone, smiling at someone, not necessarily having to go out of your way to pay somebody's medical bill when you cannot afford it because, yeah, you want to show kindness, okay? But in workplace, yeah, we are encouraged to be kind by being considerate, okay? Guys, please read your mails. Don't be bossy to anyone. And you're on a call and somebody is saying, good morning, ma, good morning, sir. Somebody say, please address me by my first name, okay? So it symbolizes humility, okay? And nobody has ever been castigated that I know because the person tried to express kindness. And kindness and this kind of culture has really been quite helpful for us because it helps your direct report, especially when you are a line manager. It opens you up in a different light to your direct reports because every direct report wants to work with a manager that is empathetic. Okay, empathy is a very unique part of being kind. You want to have a line manager that you can just, I use myself as an example. So you are not available. I expected you to be at XYZ location at XYZ time, and you are not there. and I'm asking you why, and I'm understanding from the conversation that you were afraid to tell me earlier that you are not going to be here because you are afraid of how I'm going to react, okay? So I always tell them, please be forthright with me. Always tell me. I need to know because I need to also defend you. I also have a line manager, okay? Please do not be afraid to tell me anything, okay? Provided, yeah, you are not asking me to help you aid and abate something that you are trying to commit somewhere. Okay, so because naturally people will come to work with burdens, family problems, and sometimes they are so weighed down. It is your responsibility as a manager to just ask, well, you look so dull today. Are you okay? And before you know it, people begin to open up. People express themselves. There are times I tell my direct reports, you just have to go. Please just make sure you take care of yourself for 3 days. Take care of yourself for 2 days. Go sort yourself out. I'll be following up with you to know the updates and XYZ, because first of all, our state of mind has to be stable before we can bring anything to the table at work. Okay, so in my own work environment as it is now, it is not prohibited. Nobody has ever been sanctioned for being kind or considerate to another person. Yeah.
I think you've just dropped the mic there. Defending your teammates. That's beautiful. And I love that. And that's something that I lean into and foster every single day with my team at SPS, and the culture that we are rolling throughout our organization to really come together and just lift one another up. So that was just magic. So well done, Victoria. So Katja, what about you?
Well, Switzerland is a very civil place, so nobody would say no to kindness, but true kindness and civility is something different. And there are a lot of people who can say kind words, but still don't act kindly. So in that respect, I've seen quite a bad example where people haven't been truly kind, like, for example, as well, giving feedback. We had the discussion in the chat before. When I have a team member who is not performing, I absolutely have to tell him or her that they are not performing and explore with them why and how I can help, etc. What is unfortunately happening very often, that people are so stressed by having to give feedback that they avoid it, and then suddenly at year end you have either a bad rating or you keep a good rating and everybody else is angry because they had to carry a slacker through. So for me personally, I have to say that kindness is not that frequent in big organizations. Consideration, yes. Civility, yes. True kindness, we could have more of. And to go back what I mentioned in the beginning, kindness is truly good for ourselves. I mean, like personally, physically. Yeah. When I'm only just thinking something kind, when I'm wishing somebody well, truly wishing somebody well in my mind, not even saying it out loud, saying out loud is even better, then I oftentimes feel a certain warmth and energy in my body, and it gives me a smile, it gives me strength. And I've been working with leaders who were stressed and alone, and some of them did embark on being kinder to others, and it gave them a hell of a lot of strength and energy, and the relationships just really developed well. The challenge for many of them is that the environment they are in, to go back to what Jennifer said before, sometimes it's not conducive to this kindness. Kindness sometimes can be taken advantage of. And I agree, you can push back, and give that feedback. But there is almost no downside to kindness, in particular on leadership. And I just can wholeheartedly recommend to do more of it.
Amazing. You've just triggered me because it spoke about leadership and being lonely. And our good friend Jennifer that was on the first panel, she broke me when I was in Zurich, because after I had my heart attack, one of the reasons, and she said to me about execs, how do you feel when you're at the top? And you feel lonely. You feel like you're on the the top of the mountain on your own. And I think that that was a huge lesson for me. So thanks for bringing that emotion and memory back there, Katja. George, you know, because we're coming, you know, close towards the end, I'd love for you to close us out, but I want to kind of reframe my question and say, well, what are you doing within your organization and the organizations that you work with to empower and promote kindness?
Thank you, Lee. First of all, if I go back and support what Victoria is talking about, that in Africa we are seeing a lot of change from the traditional security, whereby we had hierarchy, to a risk-based approach where that we have vertical leadership and management. But still, we have pockets of management leaders who have that big man in Africa. We like status, and somebody will call you the big man or kubwa, something like that. So the big man is seen as somebody who can never go wrong, who cannot do any mistake, and that's, I think, a big mistake which we have to move away from that. So in my organization, what I've tried to do is to break down the hierarchies that are approachable. Staff, whether it's the frontline staff or somebody in the office, can really at any time. You don't have to book appointments and have a waiting list and that. And if you have a problem, then we have an open office policy. And listen to people's problems, being considerate, as Victoria talked about. Then this encourages also other staff members or other stakeholders that you come in contact with to have that free will or making you being accountable. And through this, I think I've been able to solve a lot of issues, and I've also built a relationship whereby, in terms of gathering intelligence, it's easy for somebody to give you intelligence in such a scenario, and like where maybe the person has to pass through several levels to reach you.
Amazing, my friend. So breaking down those barriers, making yourself more accessible, empowering your teammates, that open conversation and dialogue is a great thing. Yeah, I love that. Our good friend Ron Warman, he always says round tables, bringing everybody to come around that round table, that everybody has a voice. George, Katja, Victoria, I'm honored to be in your presence today. Thank you so much for bringing your voices to the stage and sharing with the virtual audience. I'm grateful to each and every one of you. So thank you so much. You know, Pelham, if you can put them back into the audience and bring Tim to the forefront, that would be great. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate you.
Love it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
so much. Thanks, everyone. I'll put you back in the audience. And yeah, thanks for all those wonderful comments and great discussions. I think, you know, you as the audience, you are very much part of the debate. And so it's great to have all those fantastic voices. Thank you, Jennifer, Ashley, Katja. I'm just going up. We've also had lots from Dr. Rob and James. Yeah, thanks ever so much. And I've been throwing my tuppence into the ring as well. So I very much enjoyed doing that. I like to you know, be part of it, just as you are part of it. And you'll see I've also launched, or at least I'm about to launch, a new poll. A copy of TKG book. Why did you buy a copy of the Kindness Games book? Option 1, to give it as a present. Option 2, for your own consumption. Or option 3, I'm just on my way to buy it. So, I think option 3 is actually a very good option too. Anyway, welcome back, Tim and Lee. How have you enjoyed the session?
I'll go first. Magical, mate. Really, just great. And thanks for the vulnerability that each speaker has shown today. That for me probably is the most moving aspect of this event. And again, without repeating myself, but we're just very grateful to everybody.
And Mr. Tim?
And this has been a great event. I love seeing everybody from so many areas of the globe on a single call. It's a beautiful thing, and just love seeing my friends again. Be honest. Yeah, the book is out there, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Unfortunately, it seems like it's not available in every single country from those platforms. So if you're having trouble getting it, reach out to Lee and I, and we can help you through our publisher, possibly. So we'll help figure that out.
And what's next? Some people are finishing their Jingle Bell Kindness. What's next on the horizon?
24 Hours of Kindness.
Yeah.
So reach out. Every year, we ring in the new year for every time zone in the world, which is like 37 and a half time zones. There's not actually 24 time zones. There's countries that refuse to share time zones with each other. They create the half-hour time zones. It's kind of funny and kind of sad at the same time. But yeah, there's like 37 time zones out there. And so what we do is we have people sign up, and you record a video, and then you post it as that region of the world is hitting midnight and entering the new year. So if anybody is interested in doing that, reach out to Lee and I. We will put you in the queue. You can record your own video. We can record a video with you. And then you can set your alarm clock, and some of you might wake up in the middle of the night like some of us do and post the video and go back to bed.
Absolutely. And again, we are here, to share and promote kindness, but we're also here to talk to you about the book. Please, if you haven't already, I know Tim shared it in the chat box. Please go and get the book. We guarantee that it will transform you. We as kindness crusaders, we're living this kindness and positive lifestyle, and we guarantee if you read the book that you too will adopt that and start living a better, more thoughtful and enriching life. So please go and get it.
Absolutely. And can I close this out by reading a little something from the book, Pelham?
Yes, you can.
All right. Our perspective on the world strongly affects who we are, what we can do and cannot do, and ultimately how we interact with those around us. If we want better relationships, we need to examine ourselves and how we tend to understand the world by asking, is this helpful? Does this belief actually serve me well? Does this worldview serve me well? Who am I becoming? Is this how I want to be remembered? And this is something that we all should do on a daily basis. The way I'm thinking, the things that I'm believing in, the way I'm interacting with people, is it serving me well? Is it serving them well? Is this who I want to become? Asking these questions brings us together. It helps us to be more thoughtful with the different situations that we have to navigate in life. And I think it's very powerful.
Amazing.
Was that the mic just dropping there in the background? Did I hear that?
Yeah.
I would
That was a
drop
big
it, but
boom.
it's on a boom, actually. So it just
Boom.
won't. Hold on, just push it down. There we go. Mic dropped.
Love it. Well, in terms of next steps, I can certainly see from our audience, 38% have bought your book for their own consumption. 62% are on their way to buy it now. Zero are it's kindness. Hey, to give it as a present would be a good idea, wouldn't it? 0% are giving it as a present. I would say that it is, especially around this festive time, a great present.
Absolutely.
Love it. Okay, well, thanks everyone to all of your fantastic comments. When I close everything down, the entire chat will go. So if you do want to post anything, please do make sure that you select everyone so that everyone can see it before I do. Otherwise, it just comes to me. It's been lovely having you all on. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and so on. The people who have stayed to the end, in my opinion, deserve a little bit of shout out because they are the big supporters, and I'm just going to read them out. To the very, very end, considering we've been on for a while now. Ashley, Christina, Dr. Rob, George, Gideon, Haimo, Isabel, Jacqueline, James, Jennifer, John, Katia, Kunle, Mike, Oluwaseun, Paul, R, Richie, Sarah, Vasti, Victoria, and Yulia. You for staying all the way to the very end. I appreciate people, we're slightly over, but you have stayed to the very end, so you deserve a big shout out too. Thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Please tag the Kindness Games. That's the correct hashtag, isn't it, guys?
Yep.
It is.
Yep. Please tag the Kindness Games when you do a screenshot of this or things you've seen today. That way we can find what you've posted and support it as well. All right.
Thank you all for coming out.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, everybody.
Thanks very much. See you all soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.